Hey everybody, this is Alzorath, and welcome back to Diablo 2, where we are doing another bonus episode. This one is going to be over a actual hybrid build for an assassin. This is going to be a hybrid of two semi-popular, but not super popular builds. Over on the left, you can see the kind of stats and goals and stuff like that for the character. Basically things to help you build it on your own if you want to like tweak the gear and stuff like that. These are the priorities that I usually focus on with this particular build. This one's going to have a lot of caveats. I'm going to pronounce that word right one of these years, but basically, since it's a hybrid build, there's a lot of nuances about the character that I'll have to mention as we go through it. So we're going to start with the most simple aspect of the character. I should note this is a hybrid of a Blade Fury Assassin and a Kick Assassin. Both use Death Traps as support skill, and then they use their main skill, and they usually have leftovers for Shadow. We actually have to use the Myrmidon boots, the unique ones, for this particular hybrid because we need those extra shadow points to get our block up, because I am using dual claw. You can do this build with a different weapon and a shield if you want to, and it can be quite effective. There is a note that if you do Blade Fury, don't do a Phoenix shield, even though the enhanced damage off weapon is great. The casting of Firestorm interrupts the Blade Fury, and you'll have to recast it, which takes a little bit of warm-up time, which can be really irritating. Don't recommend it. You're way better off with something like, I'm trying to remember, the Tesladin build, basically. I'm forgetting the name of the item, but pretty much you can do that to get lightning damage. So if you want to figure out what I'm talking about with Tesladin, it's the lightning aura rune word. You can find it on the Avenger Tesladin build that I did a couple weeks back. You can also find it just in the playlist in the top right. But anyway, that's a good alternative, and actually it's really good if you're going against physical enemies. But let's get into the actual build. So first things first, for this particular variant, I need more strength than you'd normally want for either of these, but this is because I am using those Myrmidon boots, which are kind of important for this particular build. So we actually have 180 strength with all of our gear and stuff like that. I think our requirement is a bit lower than that. Yeah, it's because I actually have gear on it that adds to it as well. I like having my stats at a minimum to equip it. So that's where that is. But we actually get enough strength to use those Myrmidon boots, and that's all the strength you're going to need. Next, we should take into account, as we're going, we're going to be putting into Dex and Vitality after that, but you want to stop Vitality after you hit about 1,000 life, and keep investing in Dexterity from there on out. This will increase your attack rating, and yes, Blade Fury does rely on attack rating. It just doesn't show on here because the character screen is a massive big liar, so it doesn't show on here. Dragon Talon is pretty good. The damage you see up here doesn't correlate to how much damage you do in the actual like combat, so ignore this crap. But this is actually important. Dragon Talon, we need that attack rating, so it's pretty important to us. Resist could be better. We are using the claw that we're using for resists, and we'll cover that whenever we get to equipment. But there are some variations here, and you notice I do have block of 49%. That's why I need the plus shadow skills. So anyway, that's the stats. Just get Vitality until you have about 1,000 life. You can get charms to make up that point, so you can have more in Dexterity if you really need to. Right now, we're pretty happy with our attack rating. As we get leveled up, this should be enough to actually do what we want. And the reason for this hybrid build is actually so we can do act bosses and trash bosses, or uniques and stuff like that. So we can kind of go wherever we want, because each of these builds does a little bit better versus another one. The martial arts skill, which we only have 20 points in Dragon Talon, maxed it out, get high kicks and attack rating. That is an important focus, and this skill is actually really good at killing act bosses, especially whenever you have Crushing Blow, which is why you'd use actually the Step Down unique and then upgrade it to Myrmidons, which has a lower strength requirement because, hey, you know, lower requirements. But that gives you Crushing Blow, Bleed, and all that other stuff on your boots. We unfortunately don't have that because we are going hybrid, so we get Crushing Blow from our helmet. So Dragon's Talon, really solid skill, 5 attacks, really fast. We actually have, with this weapon, a fairly decent speed. We could get faster if we really wanted to, but this is good enough for what we're going to be doing, and you can take bosses down to half health super fast with it, and then you get to choose whether you want to use Dragon Talon to finish them off, or whether you want to use your shurikens to finish them off. Warning, if you don't have enough attack rating, you're not going to kill them fast at all with the shurikens, so you'll want to stick with the Dragon Talon. Just an important note there. That's how you kill act bosses. That's how you focus them down. You can actually use this on non-act bosses as well, but the Trap Assassin is more skilled at killing, I mean, not the Trap Assassin, the Blade Fury Assassin is more skilled at killing swarms of enemies because you're throwing a mass amount of shurikens into enemies and ripping them to pieces. So this one right here is your tool for that, and the reason why both these builds use Death Sentry is because Death Sentry is going to cause all the corpses to explode and help you kill the actual, like, boss mob itself. So this one doesn't really need as much attack rating if you have Ignore Target Defense, so it can actually eat the normal trash mobs and then kill the unique with the explosions. This one, you just want to go in there and knock stuff back and then focus in on the boss mob, letting your traps do some corpse exploding as your mercenary kills things. That's basically how I play it. Other people may play it differently. But 20 points into Blade Fury, and then I put 20 points into Death Sentry. This is an overlap between the two builds. This is where the two builds kind of conjoin. So, generally speaking, the Kick Assassin doesn't need a lot of the skills that the Blade Fury Assassin does, but this is one area where they overlap. 20 points into that. I have started putting into Lightning Sentry. If you want more explosions with Death Sentry and are not worrying about the lightning damage from it, invest in Fire Blast until you get 18 base points in it. That way you get the maximum number of shots. For me, since I'm doing mostly physical on this character, I want that lightning damage up as just a sort of supplement to help me deal with things until my mercenary gets to Decrepify on them. This helps out quite a bit, and we're not done leveling up Lightning Sentry. We'll get that maxed out, and then I'll get about, I think, 2 points into Fire Blast to get that up to one more shot for this, so 6 times whenever we get to 99. So that'll work out pretty decently. And it'll help me clear out swarms, and this will do 1,000-something damage, which is not great, not terrible. It's just supplemental damage. If you are going against a lot of physical immunes, you can swap the helmet and the side thing out for the lightning aura equipment. So, and that equipment is just generally good because it has resist all and everything like that. It's good. It's solid. That is the alternative setup to this. And it's a little bit more expensive to do that, oddly enough, because, yeah, you're having to make 2 dreams. So that kind of sucks. I remembered the name of them in the middle of recording this. But anyway, for the Blade Fury Assassin, you actually, if you're going with a claw on your main hand weapon, you want Claw Mastery to boost that damage. We're dumping in there. We could go with an alternate weapon and a shield and skip Claw Mastery, which would give us enough points to actually spread them out a little bit. We'd not have to invest in weapon block unless we wanted to get a shadow, which that does free up a lot of points for possibly boosting this trap even further with more Fire Blast, or even going into a proper Trapsin support on this and kind of focusing the skills on that. But you have options there with it. Another thing that can be useful if you do have, like, just go for one build or the other, or have the spare points left over because you didn't go for claws, Cloak of Shadows can help you deal with swarms of enemies who are attacking you because it blinds them. Yes, blinding the enemies is very, very useful. So don't ignore Cloak of Shadows if you can afford the points into it. It's actually quite powerful. And it does reduce enemy defense, and it gives you a defense bonus. So remember those. And that will actually help you with the Blade Fury stuff as well. It's good if you're going for one or the other. I didn't have the points to invest in it because I was going for, like, higher damage, and I have Ignore Target Defense anyway. So it works against trash mobs. So that's pretty solid there. And that's pretty much, I put 1 point into Fade. Important note on Fade with this particular build. Actually, it's true of any assassin build, but Fade has a hidden attribute to it that increases physical damage reduction by 1% per level. So at 9 levels, we have 9% physical damage reduction. You cap out at 50% physical damage reduction. So yeah, if you have other gear that adds to that, it can be quite helpful. But even by itself, we have just shy of 10%. And if I actually decide to swap in plus skill charms on this particular character, I'd go for trap charms, but we could actually throw in 1 to get this up to 10% if we wanted to be oh so picky about it. And you can see duration's not too bad. But anyway, that's the skills, that's the stats, and now we go ahead and look at the gear. This gear is slightly variable. I am going for plus skills and a good claw damage. So generally speaking, I'm going for Fury. Fury, Ethereal, Sawaya, this is a superior one. It had +2 Blade Fury, and I was like, perfect. This one will go for it. This has been sitting in my, like, stash for ages. This is the perfect build to use it on. So we went ahead and threw that in there. It's got 40% increased attack speed on the Fury, which doesn't help anything except for our kicks. And it helps the kicks quite a bit because it actually gets us, we get up to a decent frame rate with our laying of hands plus that. It's got ignore target defense. This applies to the Blade Fury, and it's very important for that. It's very important for us to be able to hit with that. A bonus to attack rating, all that other stuff, very useful for this. Chance of open wounds is nice. Life leech is nice. This is our main hand one, and I should probably know. Let's go ahead and take that off. If we take that off and we don't take off our side one, and then put this back on, this is no longer our main hand one. This becomes our main hand one, and our damage will be trash. So what you want to do is you want to make sure whenever you're equipping these, you always equip that one first, and then this one. It's a weird thing about it, but your main hand is the one that determines the damage, and you don't get any of the attack attributes of your offhand. That's why we're using that particular wrist sword. So Fury, we have Blade Fury, Open Wounds, Deadly Strike. A lot of good stats on it for this particular build. Works out great. On our weapon, on our gloves, we actually have Laying of Hands, 20% increased attack speed. This is mostly for the kicks, but the enhanced damage to demons helps us with the kicks versus demons, and it's got fire resist. It's just generally all around good gloves to just have a few of for your characters. Holy Bolt on striking does not interrupt your claw. It is worth noting that the Blade Fury will carry the on striking things, but it will not carry the on attack things. So keep that in mind. If you have something that's on attack, it won't trigger with Blade Fury. But Holy Bolt does not interrupt attacks, so it just bloops out and you just keep firing. Whereas Firestorm will interrupt it because you actually go through a casting animation. So that is what we're using there. As far as the boots, we're using Shadow Dancer. There are better boots for each of these builds. You want the Crushing Blow boots, the exceptional plated boots. I cannot remember. I think they're Gorefoots, but I could be wrong. It's basically Crushing Blow, exceptional, unique greaves. So, yeah, the plated boots looking ones. But they are better to upgrade, and they have relatively, I think they have minus 20% requirement as well. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of strength to equip it. It's going to be worth it because these are the max damage kick boots. And these are what I'm using on this because I need the Shadow Disciplines to get my block up to close to 50%. If I didn't need that, I wouldn't use this. And the reason I'm getting block up to 50% is the weapon block for the Assassin, this thing right here, doesn't just block attacks. It blocks some spells too. So it's really powerful. It's really, really useful, and it doesn't go down while you're running, which is something worth noting. If you're running a Paladin with max block, it goes to 1/3 that whenever you're running. So, yeah. Now, as far as the other gear, we have our Dual Leech Ring, just floating around, using that to get some of our mana back. Pretty solid tool there. I'm using Arachnid Mesh. You can actually use other things. I'm using this for plus skills, because like I said, I need those plus skills kind of floating around. Slows target is exceptionally nice. Faster cast rate is useless to us. Increased maximum mana, however, is not, because we do kind of skirt that line of having too little mana. That's also a reason why I use a Stone of Jordan instead of a Bulkathos. Both give plus skills. The Bulkathos would give me life. This gives me mana. I need that mana. We could actually even go for a second Dual Leech Ring and lose the plus skills if we really wanted to, but we'd still have the same problem with physical immunes. This just gives us just enough mana to skirt that, and we don't ever actually really have to worry about mana more than maybe a potion here or there against a swarm of ghosts. So, Arachnid Mesh, solid belt. There are other options. If you need Leech, go for Leech. Piercing does not work on Blade Fury unless you're running a particular... oh god, I'm trying to remember the name for it. A particular modded game. So, it doesn't work on vanilla. So, yeah, this is just one of those things that's just kind of fun, and it's solid. It's just a solid belt to choose. I only have a couple of them, so, yeah, we're kind of short on those. As far as amulet, I'm actually using one of the crafted caster amulets. Could be better. I would probably actually rather have a blood amulet. I don't have a good one that's +2 assassin skills and resist all. This one actually has magic find as well, which helps us out. Generally I go for, like I said, 250% magic find. And that works out solid there. That's a good amulet. +2 skills does help us reach that 50% point as well. Leech would be better because then we'd be able to like recover even more from our Blade Fury, because Leech does work on kicks and on the Blade Fury, and it is worth noting, yes, this is ethereal. Durability does not go down from Blade Fury or kicks, so you don't have to worry about that. Just whenever you run out of mana, stop trying to hit, otherwise you will damage it. On the armor, this is actually a deviation. I use Fortitude on this one. You could go, if you really, really wanted the resists, because it would be actually putting us closer to max resist, go with Chains of Honor. But for this one, I actually got this for the enhanced damage percent. 300% off weapon enhanced damage does apply to your Blade Fury. It doesn't show properly on the character screen. So this actually boosts your damage quite a bit. It's basically a fanaticism. Actually, it might even be high. No, it's higher than a fanaticism on the actual Blade Fury. So yeah, it's nice. You have replenished life. You have max lightning resist. Not that we're actually reaching max. All resist, nice on there. Damage reduction. It's decent armor. It's not the best armor ever. You are going to find some shortcomings in it. Doesn't have plus skills. Doesn't have percent damage reduction, but does a lot of work. So it's good enough. Now, Guillaume's face, or Guillaume's face, I'm guessing it's Guillaume, but I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Basically gives us Crushing Blow. I also have a 39% enhanced damage jewel in here because I don't have any 40s laying around that I was willing to waste into this. Plus 15 strength is nice. Deadly Strike is basically a critical hit. It does double damage. And we actually have that stacking on top of the Deadly Strike on here, which puts us, I want to say, yeah, just really close to that 50% mark. So 1 and 2 hits with Blade Fury should be a critical strike, give or take a couple percent. And faster hit recovery does help us as well. So that's the helmet. And on the offhand, I'm actually, I mentioned this before, we don't get any of the perks off here. So we don't get the Mana Leech and we don't get the enhanced damage off of it. I'm actually pretty sure we don't get the Mana Leech. 99% sure. But 100% sure we don't get the enhanced damage. If you were using a shield with enhanced damage, like a Monarch with 40% jewels in it, you'd actually have a huge damage boost. So that is the only other physical option for the offhand, in my opinion. Honestly, I want the resists. So we have 45% resist all on here. We got +2 martial arts and +2 shadow disciplines. Shadow disciplines helping our weapon block and martial arts helping our kick, which gives us a decent amount of damage boost and decent amount of attack rating boost for the kicks as well. So that's why I'm using Jade Talon. It's not used very often, so they're, at least whenever I played online, they were super cheap. So, because nobody cared about them. Everybody wanted Bartuks or Natalia's. So I ended up using that. On the Switch, you can actually use the Battle Order stuff and the usual thing there. I currently don't have them equipped. I'm just showing this one off. And we just have some trash charms down here. Attack rating boost, and I have a Geed's Charm, of course. You could get Magic Find down here to boost your Magic Find up if you were actually doing this for Magic Find. Generally speaking, I'm doing this more for base item find and rune find, jewel find, stuff like that. I'm not looking for uniques or rares, so I don't care about as much Magic Find. You can hit 250 on this really easy, so don't worry about it. Just, you can swap out a couple things and be right there right away. So it's not terribly difficult. I think I actually just natively have, see, 21, that doesn't have Magic Find on it. I think I'm closer to like maybe 100 Magic Find with all my gear combined. So, and that's that. But so we probably should show off this character. I want to make sure it's on players 1. This character I generally take them around on players 3 to 5. So players 1 shouldn't be a challenge, but it has been a while since I got to run this effectively. But you can see Might does work for us as well. You can see we can just rip things to pieces, and this is doing massive damage. Oh, and I forgot to mention the Mercenary. Mercenary, pretty much my standard Mercenary thing, except for it has Reaper's Toll instead of the Infinity. It's Reaper's Toll, Fortitude, and the Andariel Mass that I transfer around to pretty much every one of my Mercenaries, because it's so amazing. If I had an Ethereal one, it would be better, but you can see we're just ripping through these things really easy. And one little piece of advice, and I'm not even following it myself, is instead of targeting enemies, target off of them and then bring the Blade Fury into line with them, because if you are targeting something, let's go ahead and target this one. You'll notice as soon as that's dead, we stop shooting. Whereas if they're not doing that, you can actually aim into the swarm with the just shots and just kind of like zero in on them. Now, another thing to remember is that you do have these straps for a reason, and they have a good kind of radius on them. So as soon as you realize that there's going to be enemies ahead, cast it a little bit back, like far enough that it's not just going to automatically trigger, and then fire into the front lines. As they approach, they'll die as they get close to you, and then the other enemies will continue to follow them, and it'll start exploding back into them and just have a chain effect of destroying everybody. And if your mercenary gets Decrepify, it gets even better. So yeah, it's pretty gnarly. This is just the strategy that I use for this. We didn't even have Fade up there. Fade, yeah, gets us to max resist on everything except for poison, which is absolutely amazing. This build can go anywhere in the game. If you are going against, well, Gloams, you might want to get a little bit more physical damage reduction and lightning absorb just to help out with it a little bit. But other than that, there's really nothing that scares this build. This build can take and destroy pretty much anything on Players 3. It has some trouble with certain things on Players 5, but for the most part, you're not going to have to worry about it. If you are going a place with a lot of physical immunes, go ahead and grab a, like I said, a Dream Helmet and a Dream Shield. And you may notice I'm using Kick right now, just because I want to. But it is, I have it on left click because if I get swarmed, like my mercenary leveled up. If I get swarmed, I don't have to worry about the enemies getting too much on me because I can just pull out the kicks and start knocking them back. And I have enough attack rating that I don't really have to worry about anything. You can see that does cause reaction to them as well. So you can see it's just, they're not a threat to me in the least. Whenever they get up close, I can stop them in their tracks. That's something the Blade Fury Assassin can't do super well. And one reason why they generally use a either Mind Blast or a Shadow to kind of support them a little bit, just to keep things at bay. I don't need that. Things get up close to me, I kill them just as fast, and I switch to something that's even more brutal to them because it's got Crushing Blow, because this is actually considered ranged. It does a reduced Crushing Blow. This kick does a mule kick to the face and then knocks him back with the last one. And one thing to note, there is a reason I don't use something like Keglaws or any kind of knockback on this. Knockback does work with Blade Fury, but I'm not worried about them getting close. And if I get knockback on my other gear, it's going to prevent my kicks from hitting because it's going to push them back in the first couple hits whenever that knockback triggers, and then those last few kicks are just going to whiff, which is not what you want. So I think that's pretty much everything to really show off with this build. It's just, it's a nasty build. It's a little bit on the expensive side, but it also uses more esoteric gear, so it's a little bit easier to get them than, say, like your mainline builds. And that's one advantage to having weird builds is generally, unless they have an expensive component, you're gonna be able to get all the gear that you want for them. You can see that he's just gonna go get down. It's pretty insane damage that you can actually pull off with this. This screen just completely lies. So, yeah. I love this build. It's fun to play. I wish I could play it more often, but I've generally been doing a lot of magic finding and stuff like that, and I haven't been going for base items nearly as much, but generally speaking, this one's for base items, sometimes magic items, like normal magic items. But other than that, solid build, just enjoyable to play through with. Sure, there's some tweaks you could do to get more damage in a particular area or another, but I wanted something that just can go through anywhere, just enjoyable for me, and this is what I ended up on. Trap Assassins can do the same thing with slight tweaks and variations, and they generally go more plus skills, whereas this one has to balance those plus skills and just survivability and damage. So it's a little bit more of a teeter-totter balancing act, but it's still really strong and really underestimated, using two really underestimated skills by most people, because those are not the first things you look at. A level 1 freaking kick and a level 18 skill that most people think is garbage, but it's amazing. So anyway, if you guys enjoyed this, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time on Diablo 2. And you, like I said, you can look over on the left for like the stats and the strategy and stuff for this if you didn't feel like watching through the entire thing. So bye.